And we're back for pretty much a special episode of the Calcio Guys with the usuals, Adreano, Donardo, and Gianni Dellacali. We're joined by Nando Musano and AzzurriFanPhil Innamorato, all the way from Philadelphia. Guys, how's it going?
Doing good. Happy to be back.
Same here.
Beautiful.
I mean, special times. I just hope everyone's staying at home. Andrà tutto bene, as the saying goes. You know what? It's cool to see a saying that got started in Italy with the rainbows and everything. It's made its way around the world.
Yep. It has. I mean, here in Montreal, we can vouch for here in Montreal. There, people are posting it on, kids are making drawings, posting it on the windows, and kind of just getting that unity that we need in this crazy time. That I think goes a long way, because with the positivity that people have, everybody sticking to the rules, and people believing in that we can achieve and conquer this crazy time. I think it goes a long way.
So before we get started, obviously we just want to dedicate this episode to everyone working on the front lines, all the doctors, nurses, medical personnel, everyone working in grocery stores, pharmacies, everyone who's pretty much putting themselves on the line while everyone like us gets to stay at home. So salute to them. So what we're going to do for this episode, we're going to kind of have like a round table. We have a couple of topics. I have a couple of questions lined up. And we'll go one by one discussing them. We got a couple social media questions, a couple of good ones too. So this one's from our friend. We'll start off right away from our friend Joseph at Calcio Fan Blogs. And a nice simple one. What's everyone been up to? We'll start with Phil from Philadelphia.
Yep. So I'm working from home right now, so I'm busy during most of the day. Other than that, I've been consistently sucking at FIFA whenever I decide to play. So nothing new there. I will say, so at least in Philly for the time being, outdoor exercise is still considered an essential life-sustaining activity. So, I mean, I do go out for a brief walk. There are very few people around. I mean, Philadelphia is, I think now we are the sixth largest city in the country. We used to be the fifth. So heavily populated city, and I live right outside of the downtown area. So there's usually a ton of people around, but you do notice now that there are just so few people. So we're doing our social distancing. Other than that, really not much new.
Nando?
Working from home. I'm still fortunate enough to have my job, which I'm thankful for. Playing a lot of video games after work and on the weekends, especially some MMOs or online RPGs, Elder Scrolls Online more specifically.
Great choice.
I knew. And and some FIFA here and there, and just ranting on Twitter about old school Calcio and how good Lazio was 2 decades ago.
John Hugo, we haven't had you on in a while, probably since January?
A hot minute.
Well, welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Working 3 jobs has kind of taken a bit of a toll on me, so I had to cut down on a lot of things. Not much because the banks are still open, so I was supposed to go work at a branch on Bernard and Hutchinson, and then what happened was there was a scare in the neighborhood next door, and for preventative measures, told me to self-quarantine myself for 2 weeks at home. It's been 2 weeks, nothing happened, but I still got paid for work. But now basically TD Bank is like, oh, it's either A, you stay home and we'll take your pay from your vacation, or you go to work at the branches and we'll still pay you normally without taking anything from your vacation. So tomorrow I'm going back to work, apparently.
Welcome back.
Yeah, and the school board's paying me, so basically to be at home because they're all closed. So long story short, I was paid at home for the past 2 weeks just to play World of Warcraft. So that's been my past 2 weeks.
There you go.
Lucky guy.
It's not a bad look.
Adrian?
So for myself, I mean, nothing crazy. I unfortunately don't have a job to go to. I am home pretty much every day. It's kind of the rinse repeat every day here at my house. But yeah, I mean, catching up on certain things. A lot of homemade pasta, homemade desserts that are being made in my house. We're constantly eating. I don't know. There's not a time where we're not eating, it seems like. And yeah, I would say playing a bit of FIFA, watching some old Calcio, reruns if it's not the World Cup of 2006, maybe any older Milan games as well. But yeah, besides just stuff like that, it's pretty much rinse, repeat, and stay home because it's what we need to do.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as you, Adreano. I was working from home for 2 weeks, and then because our offices had to close, we couldn't. We pretty much had to stop the company. So no work for me for now. So a lot of video games, a bit of FIFA, but I bought a racing wheel for my PS4 about a month ago. So I've been playing a lot of F1 2019.
Look at you!
A lot more fun than playing FIFA. Let's say. A lot less stressful, especially if you play Ultimate Team. What do you guys miss the most about the Serie A? I mean, it's almost a month now that we haven't had a game. Let's start with Nando this time.
What I think of the Serie A?
What do you miss the most?
What do I miss the most? Waking up on Saturdays and Sundays, watching any sort of game, but mostly my Lazio. And the build-up to the weekend, anticipating the game. So you don't realize how important this sport is to your everyday life until it's gone. Like,
totally agree. Totally agree.
It's so true. It's like,
you're not wrong.
My boss is a big Lyon fan. He's from Lyon. So on Monday mornings we talk about the results, and the build-up happens during the week. We talk about the matches that are upcoming, CL, Europa League, or even the leagues, right? So it's like, now that it's gone, forward to on the week. Yes, all the days are the same, but it's like, it's a big part of our everyday lives from September to May. It's like, I feel like I'm having serious withdrawal here, and especially with the fact that we're actually doing really, really good. I'm like, why this season? Why, it's just tragic. Tragic,
it's like
tragic.
Me with the Bruins.
Talk, Gianni.
How about you, Phil? What do you miss the most?
Probably arguing with people on Twitter. There's not much to argue about now. No, to echo what Nando was saying, the anticipation for the weekend, when they finally suspended the league, I was able to clear so much off of my personal calendar. I would have like the big matches, and some of the big matches in other leagues as well. I don't follow other leagues, but I would want to tune into. I think this past weekend it was supposed to be City Liverpool, and my girlfriend is a big Manchester City fan. Her family's from Manchester, so I would follow those matches as well. And now it's like I have so much free time, along with everything else being canceled, of course. So you really do realize how much of a big part of your life it is. And this has been a great season. And I thought coming into the season, not so great for Napoli, of course, though we were on a good run recently. But it was definitely one of the most exciting seasons that we've had in a while. And for it to just fall apart like this is really brutal.
Adriano?
Totally agree. Yeah, no, I totally agree with the guys here. I'm going to probably piggyback on what they're saying as well. I mean, like they said, the anticipation of Saturday, Sunday, just waking up. If it's the early morning game, the middle of the day game or the later game, it's that anticipation that you get and that rush that you get when you watch your favorite team and your favorite sport. So if it's not games that you can watch because of work or whatever, you always try to find a way. And just those little things that like these guys said, you don't realize how great it is or how great you have it until something's gone. And I think a lot of us Calcio fans can probably agree with that. If it's not getting to a local cafe or if you're part of a team club, it's sad times, and especially where you can't even go out of your house and even be with friends or be with people that you love. It's hard too. So everything's gone, everything's put on pause. But I think hopefully things can get back to normal soon. And like I said, you can always hope for the best.
And I know, Gianni, you haven't been watching a lot of the games because you've been so busy. But what do you miss the most without any sport, without Serie A?
Well, it's just the excitement of the race itself, because it was just coming so close down to the wire, and I was so excited. I didn't care if it was Lazio. I'm like, I just can't wait for Juve just to be dethroned. I would have taken any team, and it's just a piss off that it just had to end on the day that Juventus is ahead by 1 point, and the league's like, oh well, I guess we have to give Juve the title. It's
not over yet. Don't worry.
But also the fact that even though they weren't doing so well in the season, Napoli was doing pretty well in Champions League, and Roma themselves too in Europa were actually not that bad either. So it was just like there was another excitement for me to watch. I'm like, if they can't do well in the league or do enough damage in the league, at least they can do damage in European competition. And then that got suspended, so that was unfortunate.
You know what I miss the most, besides what everyone said, the anticipation? Going on social media before and after games and seeing all the banter. All the stupid things some people say. Sometimes, you see some things that are like so out of line and it makes you angry, whatever. But you know what? I miss that. Sometimes like Phil, you said you like to argue with people on Twitter. We haven't seen you on Twitter as much as we normally do.
So I was telling my girlfriend last night how if you go on my account, I mean, I'll respond to people throughout the day, but I only have like 5 or 6 tweets a day these days, because there's not much to talk about. All we can really talk about now is whether or not the league will pick back up. Today's news seems to suggest that UEFA really wants the seasons to be officially finished, not canceled. So, we'll see. And news coming out of Italy seems to be getting better each day. So who knows? I mean, come mid-May, maybe we will be playing again. That would be great. But obviously everyone's safety needs to be put first. I for a while now, have been thinking that it will just get to a point where they have to cancel it. I hope I'm wrong, but who knows? We don't know when this is really going to, quote unquote, end.
So I mean, some of you said, it's been a pretty crazy season so far. Do any of you have a favorite moment of the season?
Definitely the game we were at together but apart. The Juve,
yes,
the Juve Lazio game. Just being there was incredibly surreal. And beating Inter. To me, that game was the game that put us over the top, and we were like legit contenders. I think that game was important to Lazio's season because for the longest time, Simone Inzaghi was kind of known as you wouldn't beat the big teams. You know what I mean? He'd lose to the Inters, the Milans, But this season, he literally beat every big team in the league. He beat Napoli, beat Juve twice, actually. Beat Inter. Okay, he didn't beat Roma, but Roma aren't really a big team, so let's be honest here.
Wow.
That's number one.
All right, just make sure you guys are keeping one of us gets the insult in.
Yeah, Nando's number one.
And that game, you just knew we went 1-0 down over like a really stupid goal that Ashley Young scored. I think it was even like a rebound or something. I know it wasn't a rebound. It was just it was a goal that was avoidable. And just the fact that
in your glasses case,
just the fact that we came back and we literally outplayed Inter. And we beat them. It was a magical moment, and then all hell broke loose, and there goes our season.
I would probably agree. I mean, considering although Italia, I'm pretty sure we're, excited about the season, especially how things were going. And, they have a guy up top in Immobile that was scoring for fun, and just their supporting cast has been second to none. So I would probably agree with that it's been, Lazio as a whole, I think, has been great this season. I can't say too much for Milan because it's kind of been a rocky road and kind of been a roller coaster. But to see Ibra come back, I think for a lot of Milan fans, it was a bright time, I guess, if you want to call it that. But if we could have just picked up the points in the derby, that would have been great. But that first half, I think, was immaculate, and it went to shit after that. But besides like little moments here and there for Milan, hasn't been too great. But I think they could have probably squeezed into maybe Europa League again, like Phil was saying. If things do pick up, maybe in May, maybe in June, we'll have to see. But another talking point, I don't know, but like Atalanta in Champions League, I think they proved a lot of people wrong. They turned a lot of heads, showing that they can compete in Europe, and it's been exciting. I mean, love them or hate them, I feel like you got to give them some sort of credit, where credit's due, and I don't know, they're exciting. It's a shame to see that the Champions League is stopping where it did. With Atalanta, like I said, playing amazing, and even the Napoli game, I was really excited to see that Napoli-Barcelona second leg game because it was a hell of a first game. So it's tough to say, but I think those moments have been pretty good so far this season.
Napoli was going to bounce Barca. Take my word for it.
What I'm saying. Yeah, no, I agree.
Napoli was
going to really look forward to it.
I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, I have faith that they could do it, but I wouldn't have been that confident. I mean, the first leg was one of the highlights of the season. We really could have and should have won it. I'd say us beating Liverpool at home at the very beginning of the season, the Fiorentina match to kick off the season. We've had a rough season overall. I'd say we're on an upswing over the last couple of, before the league was suspended. The last couple of fixtures were wins, but we had some weird defeats, and then of course there was the period of I think it was actually 2 months where we went without a win. So it's been a strange season for us, but still overall an exciting season. And we were still before things were put on hold. I mean, we were still fighting for fourth place. It would still be an uphill battle, but I mean, there was a period where we were sitting around 10th or 11th, where we would have no business aiming for a European spot this season. And if things end where they are now, we still at least have Europa League, which is incredible if you think back to how poor things were.
Do we lose Adri? No? Okay.
I'm good, man.
Okay.
All right.
For me, in terms of the Napoli side, I think my favorite moment of the season would have to have been shutting up the Liverpool fans for the group stages of Champions League. Pretty much, you could tell the fan base had us as a small club mentality, and yet we beat them 2-0 at home, and then they're like, oh, it's because you're playing in Naples, and the next thing you know, we draw them 1-1 on the road when we scored first, and Mertens with the beautiful bottom corner, opposite corner shot. For me, that was just... Mwah. It was beautiful.
Wait, are you saying English fans calling Serie A teams small? Wow. Imagine my shock! Wow,
I just love it.
Center of the universe. I forgot.
Yeah, I just love it. Just general thing. It's just so beautiful. It's one of my favorite things to watch in soccer. For Roma, I mean, I could just say the 1-1 draws with Lazio. I'm just humbling them a bit would be nice, but honestly speaking, I'd be stupid to say. It was honestly a surprising start for me for Roma. I didn't have much expectations for them going into the season. They were a very, I would say, mutilated squad at the beginning with all those injuries and stuff, but they still ended up getting results. I guess for me, just for how far they've been going in European competition is basically my highlight of the season for Roma, especially with my expectations at the start of the season for them.
Roma.
Adri, your favorite moment?
No, I went. I went.
you
It's your
went.
turn.
For me, maybe something more like self-centered. I'd say just going to Italy to watch the 3 games: Lazio, Juve, Sampdoria, Parma, and then Milan Sassuolo. I think those are just my favorite moments from my own perspective. But in terms of soccer, I'd have to say, like for Juve, I'd have to say beating Inter twice. More the first game at the San Siro because there was actually fans, and it's not like they're playing in the middle of a pandemic, almost like something they shouldn't have done the second game around. Although it still was a good game that time, but yeah, both those events were fun for me to watch. Okay, we have an interesting question coming in from 24/7 Italia Football on Instagram. Which team will suffer from Serie A cancellation the most? This is interesting because, it's you could look at it both ways. Obviously, teams are going to suffer if the season goes again, but then the smaller teams are going to suffer if the season just ends today. So I think if the season ended today, it's going to be the smaller teams that suffer, like Lecce, or right now who's in the relegation. So Lecce's in relegation, and they were a team that's fighting. And if they go down, they're losing money. It's going to be tough for them if the season ends. But if it starts up again, we'll take it that way. If it starts up again, who suffers the most? Let's go with Phil first this time.
Yeah, I saw the argument made that Lazio could be hurt the most because they don't have a lot of depth. I mean, a Juve, Inter, Napoli to an extent. If we need to play every couple of days, which I still think is generally unrealistic, but if that's the road we go down, Lazio not with a deep bench, they could be hurt the most. Though it's worth pointing out, they don't have to worry about Coppa Italia. They don't have to worry about any European competition. So that at least is off their backs. But I could see how they could hurt. Aside from that, obviously, the smaller teams that are already in danger, you have this amount of time off, and then to be thrown right back into this when you're playing so often, it's gonna be hard for a team like Lecce to survive.
Nando?
Fair enough.
Phil brings up good points about Lazio. I'd say our starting 11 is up there with the best of the league, naturally, but you start losing the Luis Albertos, the Savic's, the Immobiles. Yeah, imagine ending a season with, Danilo Cataldi. Good substitute, but definitely can't take any of those guys' places, or Felipe Caicedo. I hope it doesn't get to that point. If the season does start up again, I still like our chances. We have a relatively decent schedule towards the end of the season. We just got to overcome Atalanta. That's our first game back, actually, which is kind of intimidating. But besides that, I think the mid-table clubs, maybe, because they don't know if they're, are they fighting for a Europa spot? Are they fighting to stay up? It's an interesting question. I can't really give an objective answer, but I think each of the mid-table clubs.
I want to argue that the team that suffers the most from a canceled season would probably be AC Milan, not in terms of financials, but in terms of what they were getting. They were gaining some momentum, especially with the addition of Ibrahimovic, helping out the younger squad, and kind of like, I don't want to say tying the ropes together, but he was a big piece to help them out and stuff. And now that this canceled season, any momentum that they just built is gone, especially if Ibrahimovic decides not to stick around past the summer, which I don't think he will, but who knows, sometimes miracles can happen. But in terms of the season becoming fully canceled, whereas season resuming, that's a hard one to pick, which team suffers from. I think all teams kind of benefit from a season resuming, but I can't pinpoint because it's been a rest period for all teams, right? So now every team gets one big push. I don't know. I have a hard time seeing which team suffers the most with a resumed season. A compact season, yeah. But anyways,
yeah.
Yeah, no, it is a tough question to answer. Like the guys have said, I probably would agree with Gianni in terms of if the season would be canceled, I think Milan obviously would miss out of Europa League, or if that's how it would work. So it would be tough for that. It'd also be tough for those Serie B teams like a Benevento that's in first place and doing wonders to try to come up. Like, are they even going to come up? Like we don't even know. So in terms of if things do go back into play, which I'm going to stick to that. I'm hoping that will be the case. I think any of the teams that had high momentum, so a lot of momentum, like the Lazios, I think they had great momentum going on in the season up until pretty much the pause of the season that we have right now. So even Atalanta is another team that they were kind of rolling highs. So I think teams with that had a lot of momentum up until this sudden halt maybe can be a little rusty going into it. But then again, I mean, it's a long break for everybody, so it's possible that everybody is a bit rusty. If things do resume.
Okay, so we got a. Well, like I said, if the season was canceled today, Lecce, but if it continues, I don't know. I'd have to say Lazio, just because they had all kinds of momentum, and they're gonna have to find that momentum going again. Okay, so we got an interesting question from Sabrina Belmonte on Instagram. So originally her question was, what was your favorite game as an Azzurri fan and club fan? I mean, for the Azzurri, for Italia, I mean, it's pretty obvious for the five of us. We're either going to say Germany 2006 or the final against France. So I'm going to add my own twist to this. Favorite game that you've seen as an Azzurri fan, not from 2006, and then your favorite game as a club fan. And I wanted to ask you guys also. I've been watching some old sports games, not only soccer, a bit of hockey, some just highlights. If there was a game you were able to rewatch tomorrow, a game that you didn't see live, so possibly before you were born or when you were really young, which one would it be and why? So this is really a 3-part question, all about old games. So favorite game you've seen for Italia, for your club, and any game that you would rewatch that you never got to see. Who wants to start?
I'll lead.
Johnny.
Okay.
Oh, there you go, Phil.
No, let Phil start.
Okay, all right. So to relive it, to watch again, the Euro 2000 semifinal, Italy versus the Netherlands. I actually happened to be in Italy during the match. It was my first trip there. It was an amazing experience in Sorrento after they won, and that actually happened to be where I was 6 years later during the World Cup final. So definitely that match would be my favorite, with all of the caveats that you mentioned. For Napoli, I would say one of the recent Copa finals, probably the 2012 final against Juve, or the match in the 2017-2018 season when we beat them with the Koulibaly header. That was pretty amazing. The other question was to relive a match that we haven't seen, or
not relive, but rather just watch for the first time a match that you never saw.
Yeah. So Napoli clinching the Scudetto in '87 against Fiorentina. Whether to watch on TV or to be there, obviously, that would be one that I would want to experience.
Okay, Gianni?
In terms of my favorite Azzurri game of all time, it would have to be that's not from 2006. I think I would have to go with Italy versus Germany in 2012. Balotelli.
Oh my God! I was going to say that.
Balotelli was such a monster that game, and that was a really good German squad, and I didn't have high expectations going into that match. And the fact that we came out, was it 2-0, I believe we won.
2-1 or 2-0?
2-1.
2-1. The fact
they
that
got a late goal.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, that tournament was just a monster, and he just was something else. And he was finally showcasing what he could actually do if he actually plays seriously. In terms of clubs, that Roma versus Barca game, I cannot get enough of it. I know it didn't lead to anywhere. It just led to a semifinal disappointment versus Liverpool. I don't care. Just the fact that tremendous comeback and just the emotion of Manolas scoring that goal. Oh, it was just, that's something I'm going to be telling my kids in the future and stuff, you know? In terms of Napoli, Phil touched it, the Koulibaly game. Recently, that's that game was just because I think Napoli going into that game had like a streak of 6 losses or 5 losses in a row to Juve and stuff, and it was something ridiculous. And it was always, I remember one time I was over at your house and it would be a game. Nicholas, remember we were watching that Juve Napoli game where it was just Napoli was dominating, and then Dybala scored. Was it Dybala or Higuain scored on the counterattack? Or was it? It was something like.
It might have been Higuain, but I don't know.
On the counterattack, yeah.
But I don't know if you were here. I remember you were here.
No, I was
here
over.
Both games in 2015, 2016. I have to look that up, but it was a while ago.
Yeah. Yeah, but anyways, because it was just just a lot of emotion building up to that game itself, and just finally unleashing all that excitement when Koulibaly scored. That was probably a recent game that I loved. In terms of history, I would love to see any of the old derbies between Lazio or Roma, any one of them. You name it, especially with Totti in his prime, or maybe even back when Nesta used to play for Lazio in his prime. You know, that would be amazing to watch, just for either player. And for Napoli, just to see the first leg of the UEFA Cup final from '89 in Naples, where they won 2-1. Just to actually even if it's on TV or in the stadium, just to feel that noise, feel that energy, you know, just to actually see Southern club get success internationally, that would be very nice to see. So that's my thing.
By the way, Gianni, the Italy-Germany game, it's on UEFA.tv. They posted the full match the other day.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so it's on my to-do list. Nando?
I'll definitely.
Same here.
Me. Okay, favorite Azzurri game that has, with your stipulations. Okay, I'm gonna go back a little more back in time here. Based on everything that happened to the prior World Cup, I went back to 1998. Italy-Chile. Italy was down 2-1. It was a group stage game. I think they opened up the tournament, and Italy got a penalty shot. I don't know what minute it was. I think it was late in the game, maybe 70th, maybe 80th minute, and Baggio was taking a penalty shot. And you knew there was all kinds of emotion running through people's heads. Like, is he going to miss? Is he going to choke? But it's Baggio. This guy's as cold as ice. Like, what happened in '94 was once in a billion, and it happened to be in a World Cup final. And he just slaughtered home that penalty, and he just put his finger to his mouth to shut everyone up, and he just after that it was just all over. And just even like the controversy surrounding his selection for that team and the tournament itself, because that's the year Del Piero kind of broke out, and everyone was advocating for Del Piero to start. And surprise, surprise, whenever he came on the pitch, he didn't really do much. And Baggio again carried that team to penalty shots against the eventual world champions in a game we honestly should have won. Had Baggio started. Match that I would say my favorite club match for Lazio in recent memory has to be the 2013 Coppa Italia. Like the final against Roma. Oh man, it was that had the potential to be a tragedy, or the potential to be one of the best nights you can actually have as a Lazio fan. And thankfully, Lulic 71 scored that lovely goal, which we still cheer every time we play Roma in the 71st minute. We cheer, and I've been to 2 derbies, and I can advocate for that. And I remember watching it with at a bar, actually Chocharo's guys in the East End.
Shout out.
And there was all Roma fans, and it was just me and my friends were just a small table of Laziale, and when we scored, man, it was great. And match, I could be there as a fan. I would have to say the last match of the season, or the 99-2000 league year, when Lazio was playing Regina. I think we ended up beating them 3-0. We had to win that game to clinch the Scudetto, and Juve had to lose to Perugia later on that day. So basically the fans watched Lazio beat Regina, which was formality at that point, and they all stayed in the stadium listening to Juventus Regina, and that game was delayed 45 minutes due to bad rain, and then all the jubilation on the field when that final whistle was blown and Lazio were declared champions. It's like, I don't know, it looks so surreal. Even if it was 20 years ago, like, you just see the fans, like, they're literally crying, and I don't know, it's something I would want to experience. And I had planned to go to Italy if Lazio continued their momentum to go to the last Serie A game of the season and watch them if it came to that. So here's to crossing my fingers, guys.
And the last match of the season, by the way, is Napoli-Lazio.
Oh, add the San Paolo.
Adri?
That's a big game. Yo, okay. So for me, I kind of even forgot the questions after hearing all these guys talk. I don't know.
You want me to repeat?
Okay, go ahead.
So, your favorite game as an Italy fan, not from 2006. Your favorite game as a club fan, and one game that you would like to watch that you were never able to watch, either before you were born or you just didn't get to watch it the first time around.
Yeah, okay. So starting with the Azzurri game, I guess I was going to originally say what Gianni said, the 2012 Euros with Balotelli totally destroying, but I guess I'll go to 2016 under Antonio Conte. I mean, again, love him or hate him, what he did in 2016 with, I would say, a bum team that Italy had with some real no-names and some real guys that shouldn't be playing for the Italian national team, I think proved a lot of people wrong, and just the heart and hunger that team had, ultimately losing to Germany in penalties, I believe it was, and that I remember me and Nicholas were totally pissed off about. But
my brother still remembers that day because you can't.
Oh, we had
what?
No, because we had no business being in the final there.
Yeah, I know.
We had no business being in the penalty shots against Germany. We had no business. We got super lucky.
That's it.
That team was so bad. The
game against Germany, Adri, we were watching that together, and right when they lost, I had to rush to go to work, and my brother reminded me the other day. He's like, I was apparently there was no one else at home. At that time, my sister was in the hospital at that time, so no one else was at home. So he's like, I just had to sit there with Adreano and Giuliano while you left, and I've never seen Adreano so quiet after that game.
Yo, I remember. I mean, like, it was such anticipation. Like Gianni said, no business being anywhere near there with the team that they had. Like I said, a bum team, if you want to even call it that. I don't know, like the Pelés of the world, the Eders, the Giaccherinis. I mean, I don't know. You think of these players, you don't think national teams. So for that, I think, ultimately, the Azzurri went to shit in 2018, but right before that, I think it was a positive moment and a positive tournament for Italy. In terms of, I guess, Milan, I don't know. I mean, there's so many. If I could say what my favorite would be, going back to when we actually won something. So I don't know, 2011 Scudetto, 2007 Champions League. I think those were bigger times. That are more recent times for me because I didn't really get to see all the other glory days back in the 90s and 80s and whatnot. So so for that I would probably say that. Maybe even the derby where Zapata got the equalizer 2-2 at the death there against Inter. It was a big game. So. I don't know. I would say probably those ones. In terms of games I would have loved to see or to watch or to be a part of, like I said, probably any of the Champions Leagues I won back in the 80s, maybe the 93-94 one, to be specific. It was a bit before my time, so I didn't get to really catch that. maybe even Italy back in the days where I was too young to really understand what calcio was, and maybe 2000. I was only 4 years old. Was I really watching? I can't really say. Maybe I had some sort of jersey, but I don't know. But yeah, the earlier Azzurri moments and older Milan moments, I think for me would be stuff that I would love to say I could been around for, and seeing maybe the Barese's like in his prime, Maldini in his prime. Would have been amazing to see, but unfortunately not. But now, we look for the future.
So for an Italy game, I'm going to go kind of outside the box. So obviously, I'm younger than you, Phil and Nando, so I didn't get to watch the 98 and 2000. I mean, I was around, but I was way too young to even comprehend what was happening.
That's
So for an Italy game, I'm going to go Euro 2008. Group stage against Romania. That day, I'm pretty sure I had school that day. I came home, I recorded the game, I came home, watched it on record. I just remember, they lost first game against the Netherlands 3-0, and it was, Italy had to get a result. They had to get a point, and it was, I was excited to watch the game. I was nervous. Mutu scored in the 55th minute, and then a minute later, Christian Panucci, the veteran on the team, scores, ties it up. But my favorite moment from that game was Gigi Buffon, who stopped Mutu's penalty late. And I just remember being so happy and, just loving the way that, Buffon showed the passion that game. They ended up beating France the next game and then lost again in penalties against Spain in the quarterfinals. For Juve, I'd have to say favorite game either against Napoli in 2016 when Jahzzar scored in the 88th minute, I believe. That put Juve in first place and pretty much won them the Scudetto that year, or Juve against or Inter Juve in 2018, Higuain's goal late, that crazy comeback a week after they lost to Napoli, when things were looking pretty bleak. It looked like Napoli was going to have some of that momentum, but Juve had other plans. So those two games were very very exciting, two games I'm going to remember for a long time. And then, games I wish I would have seen. Obviously, the 96 Champions League final for Juve, they won it, I think, like 3 months before I was born. So I can't even say Juve won a Champions League in my lifetime. Obviously, I'd love to see that game. 2002, the last game of the season, when Juve beat the Udinese and Inter lost to Lazio, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I would love to watch a broadcast of that game. Well, they're happening simultaneously. I would love to watch a broadcast of La Giostra del Gol, where they're showing one game and then there's updates from the other one. I would just love to see that feeling. And I sent you guys a video. Gianni, Nando, Idri, I sent you guys a video last week. It's on YouTube. I think every year from like 99 to 2002, the title was decided on the last day. I mean, I would die for something to like that to happen again. We haven't. When was the last time we had the title decided on the last day?
2010, Roma. Yes, and Inter. Somehow those dog shit Roma teams with Marco Cassetti, Rodrigo Tadei, all these like Serie B level players were actually challenging for top spot, and Inter with that all-star team just couldn't win it ahead of time. But like 2009 too, or I don't know, Roma was they weren't good at all on paper. You look at their team on paper, you're like, this team would barely finish eighth or ninth in today's Serie A. That's how bad our league was 10 years ago. Just think about it. A team with Max Tonelli. The left back, he wasn't good. He was terrible. And Marco Cassetti were finishing second to Inter.
He's not wrong. It was a very compared to today's squad. I actually would argue this is probably a weaker one.
I just even want to look at like a Roma roster 2010. It was,
my God, sure. Claudio Ranieri was our manager too that year.
Yeah, they were terrible. Wasn't Biello on the team one year?
It was because like we had Luca Toni and Totti up front. Vucinic was not that bad.
Yeah, Vucinic.
Their mid was okay. I mean, their mid, they had Perotta, they had Tadei, they had De Rossi. They weren't that bad in the midfield. Mexis was
overrated player ever. This guy was good at nothing. I don't understand what the hype around Parada was.
No, because he did his job. He did his job. He wasn't bad. He just did his job.
What was his job? He was just,
don't suck.
he was just there. Like you look at our lineup in 2006. He won it, but what an eyesore! What an eyesore! What a overwhelmingly overrated
stats that year.
What?
I also Julio Sergio was the keeper that year. What his stats were that year?
God, what a terrible keeper!
If we go up, keep up with this, we're gonna be here all night.
Okay.
No, but anyways,
we have a.
Let's not get off topic.
But that was the last time it was decided on the last day.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
the gap was
2010.
2 points.
Max Tenedo, that was his name, the left back. He used to play for Lecce. He was awful. They had Reese, Marco Mata.
Did they replace him with Reese?
John Arne Reese.
Wasn't he? Didn't he eventually replace Toneto because they just figured Reese was better?
Yeah, he was one of those 2005 Liverpool leftovers from that fluke Champions League they won.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, continue.
Well, I think we lost Phil. He said he left the conversation.
Did he?
He's back.
Phil, are you still here? Oh, Phil's still here.
Yeah, he's here.
Okay.
No, it says he left.
No, it says
Did
join. I don't know. He was getting maybe he was getting tired of your ripping on Roma. Hey, Nando.
Why would he get tired of ripping on Roma? I'm surprised he didn't jump in with Nando to ripping on Roma.
we have to call him back. This guy, I think he's off. Yeah, we have to call him back.
Okay. I'll add him back to the call.
But just piggybacking on the players they had Tenedo, Reese, Alejandro Rossi, Cassetti. What a terrible team. Tade.
Okay, Phil's back.
I'm back.
Oh,
Sorry about that. I went down to 20%, so I took my earbuds out and went to charge it. I didn't know that drops the call, so my apologies.
No worries.
Oh, really? Removing your headphones drops the call? Really? That's crazy.
Apparently, that's all I
do
did.
every day.
That's
Phil,
scary.
we were ripping on Roma before you missed, or were you part of that? Were you part of that?
I was part of it.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay, so another question from Instagram. This one's Azzurri related, so we can all agree more or less. Absolutely love the username Pizza Calcio. That's fantastic.
Love it.
Two things in life.
So, any big changes you guys think will happen with the Euro? Well, with the Italy lineup now that the Euro is delayed a year. You know what? I'll start off this one. Pretty obvious. Zaniolo is going to have a chance to play. He hopefully won't be hurt a year from now. Again, we never know what's going to happen to anyone in the lineup. There could be injuries.
Fingers crossed.
So I think it's going to give him a chance. And I think on defense, I don't think Chiellini's going to play. I think it's going to be up to Romagnoli and Bonucci. I think if it was going to be played this year, Chiellini would have had that chance. A year from now, he's going to be, I think, just a bit too old for this team. But again, that's my opinion. Let's go with Adreano first this time.
Yeah. So for me, I think we kind of touched upon this. It's been a long time, maybe over a month ago now. But obviously with when we were talking about Euros being postponed, and now it's officially postponed to 2021. For me, just any of the young guys you mentioned. Nicholas mentioned Zaniolo. I think that might be his tournament in 2021 when he comes back to full health. Maybe, I don't know. You never know. A guy like Sandro Tonali maybe can make way into that midfield if that midfield isn't the Verrattis, Jorginhos, Barellas, Sensis of the world. So maybe I mean personally I'm in love with him, but Krastovili is another name. I think that another year of experience in Serie A for him, Tonali can make their names a bit more known, and I think earn their spot maybe into Mancini's system. In terms of the defense, like you said, Nick, I probably would agree. Maybe with a rotation, I don't know how it's going to work, but maybe Romagnoli, Bonucci, if Acerbi is back on his game, which you can never count this guy out. So I think he's another name to include in there. But yeah, I think for me it's mainly the midfielders. Obviously, some younger attackers. If Chiesa could get his head on straight. Orsolini is another name that excites me on the right hand side. I hope Insigne and Immobile can be on top form, because these are two guys that you love to see them perform in Serie A, but with the Italian national team, there's some times where they're not up to scratch. So if they can stay on form to kind of lead the way as part of that veteran presence, I think it'll go a long way with a lot of the young guys that Mancini likes to call upon. So I'm going to stick with that. Orsolini, Castrovilli, Tonali. Who else did I say? Yeah, it's pretty much it. I think those types of names. Another year in Serie A with Serie A experience. Getting training with Mancini and the national team can only be good for them. And with these experiences, I think they go a long way. So I'm hoping the best for those players.
Phil?
Yeah, so I'd agree with the point about Tonali, Castrovilli, as well as obviously Zaniolo. But what I would emphasize, and this is going to seem very unlike me, and I know Nando will be upset with it as well. The one change that we could see in terms of losing someone, if he is not near the form that he has had this season, Immobile might not be a starter at the Euros next year. Obviously, if he keeps up what he's doing now, he's a lock. But if he has an off season next season, there's going to be a lot more chatter for someone like Belotti to be the starter up top. I hope I'm wrong. I really want Immobile to prove the doubters wrong. I think he gets a lot of unfair criticism. He is made into a scapegoat, along with Insigne to some degree over the past couple of years. So I hope I'm wrong on that, but it's a real possibility if he can't replicate or come close to the season that he's had this season.
Nando, what do you think about that?
For some reason, Mancini's had it in for Immobile. Like, he really likes Belotti. I'm not really a fan of Belotti, to be really honest with you. I think he's just...
Neither am I. He's overrated.
Your average run-of-the-mill Serie A player who had that one good season, who's been living off it. He's okay. Belotti's okay. That just goes to show we're lacking a lot in the striker position. When players like Belotti get called up, maybe I'm being too harsh on him. I just don't think he's that good. I think Immobile should be a lock regardless. If he has a bad season, then it'll come into question. But he has had a lot of unfair flack over the last few years. I don't know why. We're literally talking about a guy who has 420 plus goal seasons in Serie A, which has been accomplished by a handful of players. And he always has an insane amount of assists too. So it's like people just can't enjoy him. It's mostly Roma fans that don't like him. Obviously.
No, I love Immobile.
It's true, though.
He's an Napolitan. I got to support him too.
A lot of people dislike him because of the Lazio connection. I think you could also make the case that there's that anti-Napolitano bias.
Yeah.
But honestly,
fair.
If I could I just want to really hammer this point home. When we have a bad period, fans need scapegoats.
Yeah.
And Immobile was made to be this scapegoat, even though, we had this historic failure. The guy led us in qualifying in terms of goal scoring. Now you could say, okay, Phil, that's not saying a lot, and that's true.
10 goals.
Why do we heap so much blame on him and give the others basically a pass? I mean, if you go back to that qualifying campaign, if Belotti had just and I like Belotti, by the way, if he had just buried what was a sitter against Spain in our first match against them, we win that match, and then qualifying is totally different. Now, could you imagine if Chiro was the one that missed that sitter? We would never hear the end of it. So he has been made into a scapegoat.
I agree. I still don't understand why. It's even when he scored the 2 goals against I think Bosnia, people are still saying, "Yeah, it's a fluke match." I'm like, I think it's the Lazio connection and the Napolitan connection too that really put people off about him. But at this point, like, just enjoy him. The guy's 29, 30 years old. I mean, I hate to say it, but strikers like him don't come around really often. That consistent, the last one was Di Natale. Like, different players, yeah, but they played for at the time Udinese was slightly bigger club than they are now. So, but the guy broke records, and okay, Lazio is one of the bigger teams in Italy, but he's doing it for like a bigger team in Italy. Just enjoy it.
But I think that could be a reason. Well, the reason why he's made into this scapegoat. It's the whole he's able to do it for Lazio, he just can't do it for Italy. And
I was going to say that.
I beg people, you need to dig deeper than that.
Yeah,
You can't just say, oh, he puts on an Italy shirt and just suddenly he cannot perform. Guys, maybe look at the service that he's not getting. It was a deeper problem with that Italy. I mean, we had a coach for several years. I won't even say the name.
Thank God. Don't.
Ended up, admitting, he had these weird formations. He ended up admitting after qualifying that it's not his job to really pick players. It was a weird. I remember it was some weird quote about how it wasn't his responsibility to really understand a player's role or something. So like he flat out admitted that he wasn't even good as a coach. So that's the problem.
One solution to this problem: Luis Alberto, Joaquin Correa, and Sergei Milinkovic-Savic all need to change their nationality to Italian, and then maybe Immobile will start scoring.
Well, listen, like if you really want to take advantage of Immobile, like I personally, I've delved into this conversation deeply a few times. Like 4-3-3 isn't for him. Like he can play in it. We played with it with Lazio for one season. I think he banged in like 22 goals his first season, but he needs to play off the shoulder of someone. And you know what? Italy doesn't have a Luis Alberto, but Castroville is the closest we could get. Like, the guy is elegant as hell with the ball. He can make a pass. Totally. And you know what? Play him next to Insigne, like up front. Play the 3-5-2. And they know each other from Pescara. They're both Napoletans. It works, I like the 4-3-3. I think it would serve this well against the lower echelons of Calcio teams. But I think against a team like France or England, we're going to get exposed. I don't know. I think 3-5-2 takes advantage of our best players, and players know it. It's Mancini's afraid to switch that formation. I don't know why, but with the upcoming friendlies we're supposed to have against England and I think Argentina, Argentina are kind of shit, so it doesn't really matter. But I think we would have seen our formation exposed a bit, which would have given Mancio some thinking.
But Nando, in all honesty, do you think we have the midfield deep enough to do a 3-5-2?
Absolutely. Why not? We have Barella, we have Jorginho, we have Verratti, we have Castroville, we have Tonali.
I think that's our best. That's the
but after like the initial five.
Yeah.
But like after the initial five, where's the drop off?
How many midfielders do you need in a 7-game tournament?
We went to the quarterfinals. We took the defending World Cup champions in 2016 with a midfield and a 3-5-2 of what? Jack Urini, Parolo, and Sturaro. Florenzi was playing in the midfield. He's a right back.
Yeah, the all-time mystery of Emanuele Giaccherini. I just don't understand the love for that. Yeah, okay, he's a hard worker, but the guy was literally good at nothing. He was terrible, and he scored.
I don't know that anyone loved him. To be fair,
Go, Phil.
No, I was just saying I don't know that anyone loved him.
No one did.
Coaches.
Conte had the connection with him from Juve, but other than that, I mean, there's a guy that was regularly mocked. I mean, when he was with Napoli for a couple of seasons, mocked as well.
I think he didn't even last one season. I think they sold him immediately, like a year after.
Yeah, maybe it was one season. I mean, it just goes to show you how forgettable it was.
Yeah, it was.
But, I mean, the fact of the matter is he was inspired in that tournament and that happens, but we can't bank on that, obviously.
No.
But we have good options now. We have good options. We have a competent coach, someone that is actually a manager, and is not saying, it's not his job to understand a player's role or whatever. So I truly believe that we will win the tournament. I think we absolutely can win the tournament. I think we
have
will.
The squad. We have the squad.
Yeah, I think everything is lining up. There are other very good teams. Don't get me wrong, but I think we have the desire. We typically bounce back from a disaster when that happens immediately prior to a tournament. And quite frankly, I mean, right now Italy is looking to rally behind the team. There's now an event that is giving people a reason to rally around the country. I honestly think the whole coronavirus situation could help motivate the team even more.
I agree with that. I totally agree with that.
I mean, like in 2006, our big motivation was Calciopoli, and how some of the players were just like.
You can look at 2006 and say, look at what happened in 2002 and even in Euro 2004.
Yeah,
you could go back to when we won the only other Euro that we've won in 1968. Again, the tournament immediately prior to that was the 1966 World Cup, which was up until that point was considered like the greatest disaster for Calcio. So
North Korea.
We have that history of bouncing back the next time around.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. Even in recent history, 2014, that's a mystery. 2014, we had an awesome team, but anyway.
Well, I would say 2012 after the 2010 disaster. Yeah. 2012, we went all the way to the final. So
but we played with an injured squad, and I still don't understand why you would play. What was it? Balzaretti was injured that game, and he played him, or
oh no, not Balzaretti.
No, Motta.
No, Motta.
Another knee.
No, Motta tore his knee like in midway through the second half.
Yeah, like he got injured during the game, but he played somebody who was injured because.
Oh right.
I think.
No, okay.
Prandelli had his tactics totally messed up that game. He played a 4-3-1-2, which, in all fairness, worked against Germany in the semis. But the first game against Spain, we objectively outplayed the Spanish, and we should have beaten them with the 3-5-2. Just that Balotelli couldn't score. Like he had a one-on-one with Casillas, and he didn't do anything. And he got his tactics totally messed up that game.
I like to argue that from like 94 to like 06, that we went through like probably one of the best generation of Italians ever, and we should have won at least more championships than we did in 06.
Absolutely. It's the greatest tragedy in modern football. Maybe I'm being a little biased.
No. It's an actual tragedy because just looking at the rosters over the years, and you're like, fuck me. Like, I'm sorry for swearing, but like, holy hell, how did this team lose? How?
Yeah.
Legends on top of legends.
Especially 2002. What a crazy
and just like France had to go through its best roster of all time, and Brazil had to probably go through its best generation of all time too at the same time. And it's like, really, guys? Really?
Yeah. 2002 would have been our best bet. Like that Germany team was such horse-shit. Look at their roster on paper. They were terrible, man. What an awful team, the 2002 Germany team. Like Brazil, like you look at that bracket where Germany came from. Brazil was looking. We're definitely winning this. It's like, who are we kidding? Sorry, Nick.
I wanted to ask you guys. You brought up Giaccherini, how he was in and out of Napoli pretty quickly. You know, people like to make fun of him. I wanted to ask you guys: is there one player at your clubs where, I mean, Gianni, you could answer for Roma since Phil's already got Napoli, but is there one player at your clubs where you kind of have to, think about? Oh yeah, this guy played for us. Maybe someone that just didn't fit in. Like for me, for Juve, I'd have to say Kingsley Coman, just because he left when he was, I think, 18. He played 15 games for Juve, and then he went on to have he's had a decent career at Bayern. He's a good player. He's just always injured all the time. But I'm always like, oh yeah, he came from Juve. That's just I wouldn't say a random thought that pops into my head, but it's weird to think about sometimes.
The best example I could give for Napoli would have to be. Do you remember Michu?
Yes, Michu,
who played for like Swansea City, I think. That was just one of the worst purchases ever. Or maybe he was loaned. I think he might have been loaned to us. Either way, it's just one of the things, those, situations where you're like, really? That guy came in and he was supposed to be something, and he had very few appearances, and he was out. So I think that's probably our best example in recent times.
I'm gonna go like Mauro Zarate. This guy came in as a.
Oh my God, Mauro Zarate.
Yeah, I remember him. Like, he had a really good debut season with us. He won. He was our leading scorer, I think, with 14 goals in the season. Scored a mega goal in the Derby. Won us the Coppa Italia, and just that went down to obscurity. I think part of it has to do with Eddie Rea as the coach. You guys, Phil definitely knows about Eddie Rea and how he kept Ezequiel Lavezzi on a very short leash, and it was the same thing with Mauro Zarate. I actually had a good conversation with my fellow Laziale on Twitter. What would have happened had Zarate had a coach like Inzaghi? I think he would have succeeded, and it's just a shame because that guy was on that Argentina team that won the 2007 Youth World Cup with Aguero and Messi definitely wasn't there, but it was with Aguero and a few other like good players, and he was touted to be a really good player, and he just faded into obscurity because. Maybe when he was young, he had a bit of an attitude, and because Eddie Rea didn't know how to use him. So, yeah.
Adri, you haven't spoken in a while.
Yeah, no, I'm listening to these great conversations that these guys are having, but I don't know. For me, I mean, there's been so many names, random names or guys that just kind of, I guess, flopped coming to Milan, and I don't know. Like in recent times, I don't know. Like, there was a lot of talk when they signed Mbaye Niang. I remember there was he was supposed to be something great. He was coming from the French league. He was supposed to be, the next great thing. Another guy, Hashim Mastour. He was known for his YouTube videos, but never got onto the field. And he was with the organization for so long and just never got a chance to even really play. So, random guys like that that kind of just came in and out. I mean, maybe even more recent, maybe Borini. But I know, there's a lot of love for him because he works hard. But his caliber of play. If you think of Milan, you think of Borini, it might not mesh, but I liked him when he played because he gave it his all. Also, I would probably go Mastour, Mbaye Niang, supposed to be guys that were supposed to be the next great things, and just ultimately flopped on Milan.
Nando, remember when we had that big argument or whatever it was on Football Calcio? 24/7 about Hashim Mastour, like back in the day, like I'm talking about like 8 years ago, almost 7 years ago.
Yeah, well, I vaguely remember that.
But I think,
what?
I think if I remember correctly, Walter triggered somebody that was an AC fan, and he was just shooting the shit, and Walter ended up being right, like usually.
Walter's funny.
Cole Antonio brings up that thread every once in a while. That's pretty good.
AG, I got a good one for AC Milan for you. Rivaldo. Remember him?
Oh, my God. Yes, sir. Yeah. Kind of earlier on in my time, but yeah, I do remember him. But he was great at Barcelona, no?
Yes. Then he went to Milan, then he retired in Greece. But yes, that to me, just coming from a neutral, I think he's one of the biggest disappointments of Milan, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
That's
another name.
How about for Roma, Gianni?
For Roma, the guy with the most forgettable history of Roma is probably Malcolm. Gets on the plane and then immediately gets transferred to Barca. But in all seriousness, I guess biggest disappointment would probably be Accolani.
Oh my God!
That was a player that I always had high hopes for, and I was very much behind him. And especially when I was younger, I'm like, oh, this guy's pretty good. He's going to be good, and then I don't know what the heck happened. He just plummeted in terms of in skill, and now he's become very you'll remember him, but not for the right reasons. Because he eventually, I think after that he went to. Did he go from AC to Roma, or he went from Roma to AC? I think it was.
He went to Liverpool.
When Roma to Liverpool. But prior to that, like didn't he come from AC? I'm trying to remember his whole trend, but Anthony comes to mind. Lamela at one point I was a big fan of, and now him, he's because he went to go play in the Prem. I don't really think about him that much anymore. But him, it's like holy hell! It's like when you mentioned it. Michael Bradley's another name that I just thought up of. Oh my god, it wasn't really a disappointment, Michael Bradley, but it's just when you talk about players who played for Roma, like holy crap. But yeah, but I think biggest disappointment would probably be Aquilani.
And if you're going to mention Malcolm for Roma, then I could easily say Schick for Juve.
Who?
Patrick Schick.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking
failed medical.
What?
For Juve. I was thinking more Dimitar Berbatov for Juve. He was very close to Juve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too, but
Juve usually get players.
Yeah. I mean, unless you guys have other topics you want to bring up, I don't have anything left to add.
Let's do an overrated, underrated segment.
Okay, like who's been the most overrated and most underrated player this year?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you go first.
That's
then.
a tough one.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. Solely because Roma fans love to compare him to Luis Alberto, I'm going to have to go with Lorenzo Pellegrini. And the fact that, I don't know, some people are comparing him to Totti. Like, this guy is nowhere near the level of Luis Alberto. Who are we kidding here? And he's nowhere near the level of Francesco Totti. This is an ordinary player with very good passing skills. He's not really good at anything else. Let's be honest here. He's not very good. He's not a very good shooter. He's not a very good runner with the ball. Like, okay, he has decent playmaking ability, but that's it. Underrated. This is a tough one. Underrated. Okay, maybe I'll be a bit of a homer here. Luis Felipe for Lazio, the center back. This guy is so important to our team. He's on the right center back side. And it's no coincidence for me that Barcelona and Bayern Munich have been linked with him in recent days for like 40 or 50 million euros.
Interesting, Phil.
Overrated, and I said this actually towards the beginning of the season, and people went berserk, but I stand by it. De Ligt. I think that with all of the hype around him, coming into the season when he signed for Juve, expected a lot better from him if you were buying into the hype. And early on, when I saw everything that was surrounding him, I thought, this is too much. And then he turned out in a lot of cases. I'm not saying he's bad, but in a lot of cases this season, he has actually been a liability for Juve's defense. I mean, the guy has scored a couple of goals, good for him, but he's also been involved in a lot of errors, and the handballs were just like comical. I remember thinking, like, at times, he must be doing this on purpose. Now, that doesn't mean that he won't come into form in the next couple of seasons if he stays at Juve. But I think he has been overrated if you look at all of the hype that surrounded the guy coming into the season. Underrated, even though he is getting credit this season. Giovanni Di Lorenzo, love the guy, our new right back. I believe he's underrated because if he played for Juve or Inter this season, he would consistently be called one of the best right backs in Europe. Right now, he doesn't get that level of praise, so I'm going to say that he is still underrated.
I like Di Lorenzo. I think he's really good.
Yeah, fantastic player.
I saw him play actually the last game of the season last year against Inter, and he was bombing down the right hand side. And I was like, wow, this guy's good.
Yep.
Gianni?
I would say the most overrated player, and it's not just for this year, for the past couple of seasons, would have to be Leo Bonucci.
Man, you guys are hating on the Juve defenders.
No, but I mean, like, it was exposed when he left Juve to go to AC that he wasn't able to actually properly lead a back line. Like, he's heavily dependent on Chiellini. And I feel like as if Bonucci, there was the games that Chiellini was injured, he's been okay, but I think it's because Juve as a whole is a solid team. I think Bonucci, if he doesn't have an amazing roster beside him, cannot elevate the players to a higher level than a guy like, let's say, Chiellini can. I'm a firm believer in saying that Chiellini, what sucks is that we're only going to have him a year older next year, and I think he might be a step slower, but Chiellini himself, even though he's not in the upper echelon of all-time Italian defenders, I would say it would put him in at least top 20, easily top 20, arguably top 15. Chiellini for top all-time Italian defenders. I would say probably top 15.
Besides the legends, I can objectively say Chiellini is probably better than Costa Curta, Ciro Ferrara. I would even argue top 10.
Yeah. So I think that's why I would argue that Bonucci is overrated. Underrated, I would have to say, is Luis Muriel from Atalanta. The guy, not only because everybody talks about Duvan, having that breakout year last year and stuff, and this year continuing the same great form. And obviously Atalanta as a whole, as a unit, is very deadly because the teams underrate them and then they catch them on the surprise. But Muriel, I'm just looking at a random stat. Off the bench, the guy's got 7 goals. And it's just somebody that, like, it just shows that Atalanta has like that not a sucker punch type of offense on the bench, but if you don't pay attention to it, they can kind of lure you into a false sense of security, and a guy player like Muriel can capitalize on that. So I would say maybe him being underrated. Then another player, Romagnoli, because he's just a rock for AC Milan. I'm a very big lover of defenders, but anyways, that's just me. But yeah, that's names I could throw in there as underrated.
But in all fairness, Gianni, Milan sucks. Suck now. No, sorry, Adrian.
No, it's okay. It's the reality of life right now.
Yeah.
But
Adrian, your picks?
It's tough to say. I was gonna say. At first, I was gonna say Lukaku. Just because it's Inter Snakes, but But he has scored a lot of goals, 17 goals, and first year in Serie A, so it is nice. But I don't know. I'm gonna go. I hate to go to Juve and say a Juve player, but I will say it anyways. I don't know. For me, maybe a bit overrated as of late. Pjanic in the midfield. Obviously, Sarri decided to bench him before all this break, and it kind of paid off. Obviously, that's a one-off, so it's hard to judge. But I don't think Pjanic is the Pjanic of old. I think he's still getting a lot of praise. Where he does make his mistakes too. He takes stupid fouls. In the midfield. So for me, I'm going to say overrated. I'll go Pjanic. Just off the top of my head. Underrated, if I'm going solely off this season, a guy like João Pedro for Cagliari, scoring all kinds of goals. I think he has 15, 16 goals in Serie A before all this mess. So, for me, it's a team like Cagliari, a guy like João Pedro that you don't really hear about much. For him to step up like how he has for that team, it's been huge. I think other guys. I don't know if it's underrated or not, but. I like Lazzari for Lazio. He's another name like Di Lorenzo, like Phil was saying. Di Lorenzo, him and Lazzari, I think, are two names that on the right hand side, coming from the right back position, are two bright spots, and I hope they can be used for the Italian national team going forward.
You and me together.
And you know what? A lot of Juve fans could agree with you of Pjanic being overrated. Not so much, Bonucci and De Ligt. But Pjanic definitely has some doubters, at least on Juve Twitter. But for my picks, so overrated, I'm going to go with, I know, Adreano, you won't like this one, but Theo Hernandez. Mainly because he recently won IFTV's best fullback in the Serie A.
That's because Milan Twitter is so strong. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. It was a lot of just, Milan Twitter and Milan Instagram, whatever, just people commenting. But, I find he's just overrated defensively. He doesn't do a good job coming back defensively. He's done a fantastic job getting up into the play. But is that exactly what you need from your left back? You could see him more as a left mid or possibly as a left wing back in a 3-5-2 formation. But again, that requires him to come back defensively. obviously people are going to be talking about fullbacks when they start scoring goals. But at the end of the day, that's not what the coaches look for, and it's not what helps the team have success. So although he's had a good season, I think he is just a bit overrated on the whole left back part of it, Theo Hernandez, and for underrated, I'd have to go with someone from Hellas, because I find just the whole team is underrated. They're having a really good season. We don't talk about them enough on this show. I'm gonna go for the defensive pairing of first of all, Rachmani. I know Napoli fans are going to enjoy him next year, and then Kumbula also. They've both been really good defensively for Verona. Davide Faroni is another one. He plays right back for them. So I think, it's hard to choose exactly one player from them, but pretty much those three guys are, or at least the whole team is pretty underrated in Verona. But that's going to do it for us. It was a pleasure talking with you guys, especially after a month not doing this, a month of no calcio, just sitting home playing FIFA, playing F1, going on Twitter. One day it's like, the Serie A might come back this day, it might come back this day, it might get canceled, this and that. It's just nice to talk about the season that was up until now.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys. Stay safe.
I got to admit, it was, like Nicholas said, it was honestly great to speak to all you guys, seeing you also. We got to continue doing this and, kind of continue getting, some positivity out there to the world, because, in this time, there's a lot of negativity and a lot of people not following the damn rules. So we urge everybody here at the Calcio Guys, anybody listening, all of our followers, stay safe, stay home, wash your hands. Just follow the protocol. It's something that's going on around the world, and it's affecting everybody. So the more we follow the rules and more we stick to the plan, I think we can get over this. Once again, thank you so much, Phil, for coming on. We really do appreciate Nando as well, a common guest on this podcast. But where you can find us at the Calcio Guys on all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well, to catch the podcast, all your favorite podcasting platforms, Spreaker, iTunes, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, all the good ones. So we'll maybe be back next week, maybe in a couple of weeks, but we'll definitely talk soon.
Thanks for listening.
Ciao. Thank you, guys. Ciao.
Thank you. Bye.
Ciao.
The Calcio Guys is a weekly podcast by Adreano DiNardo, Gianni Dellacoli, and myself, Nicholas Di Giovanni. We want to bring Calcio back to its roots in our communities and share stories from around the world about why we're passionate about the beautiful game. You can listen to us anywhere where you listen to your podcasts, including Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Mixcloud. Give us your opinion on social media at The Calcio Guys on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The outro song is The Last Ones by Jahzzar.